Hi Stampin' friends! Tonight I'm going to use the Hydrangea Haven stamp set. It has a lot of great sentiments. They're a little small. I'm going to use the You Make Me Smile sentiment. And this stamp set has matching die cuts, which I'm also going to use. And I'm going to show you one that's stamped, some that aren't, kind of like that. And it has a lot of accessories that go with it too. There's some pretty grape colored ribbon, and there's some little pearls. Let me see if I have those. I'll show them to you. They're called Pastel Pearls. So what they have is the grape, the Highland Heather, kind of a blushing bride, and kind of a bluish tinted. I can't really say that they're Seaside Spray, but they're a bluish tinted. Let me get the regular pearls here and kind of show you. There's some pearls, so you can kind of see that they are bluish tinted. So anyway, these are just some things that come with this suite. It's kind of a large suite. Hydrangea Hill Suite, and then the stamp set is called Hydrangea Haven. And I recently used this for a swap, and this is the swap card that I made. It has, on the inside, it has the purple posy paper, and then I used the purple posy for the sentiment block. And then this is actually, this is the only stamping on the entire card, is this You Make Me Smile here. The paper that, the Hydrangea Hill that I mentioned, is what I used to punch this out. And these are little tiny, like, petals that it cuts. So I have those kind of flipped up, and I did put some of the Seaside Spray paper behind it. Let's see if I can get it close enough. See there, you can see where I have it pushed out, so you can see behind it is the Seaside Spray that I put under it. And then it has the Old Olive on the top, and then under it, it has the pretty light green, which is, gosh, it's out of my brain. What in the world? Gosh, okay, well, the light green. And then I used the paper over here. This is called a side fold card, and it is actually stuck down here. It's got little nicks at the top, and then it has ribbon in the nick. And so I think we'll probably make this card just maybe later in the year. So I hope that you enjoyed seeing that one. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and begin on some ideas here. I'm hoping that you like these. They are just several different ways of using this particular die and stamp set. So the first thing I'm going to do is kind of go over, this is my watercolor paper, and I'm just going over that with a little bit of water. And then I'm going to use, this is the Seaside Spray, and I'm just going to kind of glop over it kind of like this. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm going to do that a couple of times and just kind of give it a little bit of, like it has little petals. I want to be sure and get the edges. I'll do a couple of edges and make sure that I go off a little bit, kind of all over there. And then I'm going to use some Highland Heather. Just had to squeeze that a little bit to get a little bit more of my Highland Heather on there. And then I'm going to kind of do the same thing with the Highland Heather and just put in a little bit of purple around on this, just to kind of give it a little more, a little variety in color. I guess usually when you see this, you don't really see much purple. It kind of either goes pink or it goes blue, but for ours, we're going to put a little bit of purple. So you can see how quickly that I've added color to this. And if that doesn't seem like enough color to you, and it kind of doesn't to me, I'm going to go ahead and add a little more of the blue back in. So maybe, you know, kind of get, and one thing that you can also do is take the edge and just go all around the edge here, and that will give it a little bit of, it's kind of a different technique, but it kind of gives it a crisp edge so that you can see then when I put it back down on the white, it has an edging on it. So just kind of, you know, if you don't care for that, that's totally fine too. But this just adds a little bit of color to the edge so that when you go to put it, if you want to put it on a white card front or possibly any color of card front, it just has a little more oomph along the edge. So So there's that. I'm going to add a little more color just to kind of not leave a lot of white spots on there. So you can see there, it's kind of got an impressionistic look. It's not anything amazing. It's something anyone can do, so that makes it great, of course, when we're doing this. And then I'm just going to add, and one thing I've been having a little bit of trouble with is getting the water to come out of my water painters. I hadn't used them in a month or so, so I kind of do that. So now what I'm going to do is just kind of dampen the rest of the petals and everything, I mean the rest of the flower, so that I can get the leaves. And then I'm going to use Pear Pizzazz, and I'm going to add some color with my Pear Pizzazz, just kind of on the leaves, just kind of scribbly along, or you can color them solidly. So like, you know, if you want to just use, well, kind of like you can see I'm doing, I'm just pretty much coloring the whole thing. You don't want to leave too much white, but a little bit of white kind of looks nice. So get a little bit more ink here. There we go. Oh, I'm probably going to get this too dark this time. I'm going to go down the middle of each of my leaves and just kind of add just a little bit more color there where it looks like the leaves are coming from. I want to kind of like it's got a center. So there you can see how that turned out. So now I've kind of finished that one, and I went ahead and cut some pieces of this that will mount perfectly on this stitched out rectangle that I liked. So I wanted to show kind of how this would layer on here, and it would kind of match this. Now you could also go ahead and just dollop on the top of this as well if you wanted to make this match, and then in that case I would probably stamp it in black just to make it kind of pop. But what I think I'm going to do, I think I'm going to stamp in the Seaside Spray. And if it turns out for you that the Seaside Spray doesn't seem quite dark enough, you can always use Misty Moonlight because it coordinates nicely as well. You could even put some Misty Moonlight in this hydrangea, and that would also be pretty. Okay, so we'll see how this turns out. It may be a little bit sideways, and if it is, we can always just redo it later when I'm off camera. So, okay, so You Make Me Smile there turned out fairly okay. I'm just going to use my Stampin' Seal. Maybe I am. There we go. And I'm going to just mount it here on top of this little scalloped rectangle. Try to get it even. There we are. So then you can just kind of imagine putting, maybe this is the paper that goes with it. So you might put some of this paper on your card just to add a little bit of interest. And then maybe put your, let me turn it around where you can see, I'm sorry about that. Maybe put it on here where you can kind of see how this is. Now also this would be very pretty if you just textured this and or textured maybe a purple and put it on there. That would be really striking, I think, as well. So you can just kind of see how this kind of adds a little bit of color and a little bit of sparkle to this card. Another thing you might consider doing is using some ribbon, maybe across the bottom here, and then tying a little tie. So I'll do that real quick and show you what I'm talking about, just to add a little bit more emphasis. So I'm just going to run my Stampin' Seal down the side here. And then I'm just going to put it around the front, kind of down at the bottom. Whoops, I want to be sure I'm using the bottom. After I was showing that to you all, I might have gotten a little off. So this is definitely the direction. Get kind of straight. And then I do like to put a little extra Stampin' Seal or even put some glue dots over the ribbon so that it sticks nicely to the card. There we go. Whoops. Okay. Nope, that's not sticky. Hold on just a second. Okay, there we are. So then I'm just going to stick this down. Now this piece of paper is 1.5 by 5 1/4. So what I just want to do is get it even on the 3 sides of the cards. Whatever I've got at the top and the bottom is what I want to make it on the side. That just kind of makes it a little easier to use. Okay, so then I'm just going to tie a little knot right here, and this end is already slanted, so I think I'll use it. Save myself some time and maybe a little bit of ribbon too. So there we are with that. Just gonna cut it this direction. Whoa, that's for the next one. Okay, so then you can see kind of how that I might just put this on this card, and this was a simple, sweet card, and it would be super easy to just get this sent to a friend really quickly with the little "You Make Me Smile" on here. So there's our first one that we've actually made. And I showed you my swap card already, so we'll try not to show that one again. Okay, then next up, I'm going to show you this on this shimmery white cardstock, and it tends to look very similar, but what I'm going to try to show you with this, I'm going to try to get enough water that I can make it more of just a, well, kind of like I've just glopped the water on, if that makes sense, just to kind of give it just color across here. Whoops, I guess I should have stuck with the green first. Okay, so the green part will still look very similar, but what I'm going to try to do is put the blue in like a watery kind of look. So let's see if I get that done. Okay, now I have quite a bit of this. Let's try to squeeze that on out. Get some blue, and there we go. There we are. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of Misty Moonlight. I want to get it kind of thinned out just a little because it's going to kind of be persnickety. Okay, let's see here. I'm just going to go ahead and dump a little more water on there. I should have practiced this a little more, I guess. We'll just all be surprised together how it works out. I do want to get these edges, just kind of like last time, how I added all the edges on. Fun. Okay, so now I'm ready to add some Highland Heather. And I'm going to do the same thing as last time with this. I'm just going to kind of speckle it on, just kind of like that, so that I can make it look a little more textured and a little more petally. Okay, that's probably enough purple, but I do think I need to go back with a little more blue. Right in there and right up there. And if you decide that you don't have enough sparkle on this, this is the shimmery white, but if you decide it's not sparkly enough, you can always add just a little bit of your wink of Stella on top, and that will give it a little more oomph. So I would like to add just a little bit of balmy blue in here, because I think it could use some, I don't know if you would say green or what, but just could use a little more color. So I'm just kind of adding my balmy blue. Good thing we have a lot of blues. It's a good time to do the hydrangea, I think, because we have so many blues and purples. Okay, so there is one look. And then I'm just going to get some green and color the rest. So pretty peacock, my gosh, Pear Pizzazz here. It's going right down the stem. And then the leaves. Easy peasy. And you can always, even with when you're doing your watercoloring, you can always pretend that light is coming from a certain direction and go on one side of the leaf with when you begin, make it the darkest part, and then make the other part appear to be the lightest part, if that makes sense. So like with this, leaving it light on the top and then going back in with dark as if it's under the underside of the leaf can kind of add the kind of shading that we're used to with the blends now. We get to have any time we want with the blends, we can add that in with this. So there is another way of doing this, and let me just lay it back on this card so that you can see kind of how what the difference is looks like with this versus this. So I colored this on the shimmery white and I colored this on the watercolor paper. And I kind of colored them in two different ways as well, you know, putting the edge on this piece and then just kind of modeling up this one. So I'm just kind of trying to show you all the different ways that you can color your hydrangea because, you know, this looks great even without the stamp set. But now let's use the stamp set, I think. So as soon as I find where I set it, right here. So what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to color with the Memento Black, the Tuxedo Black. Just going to ink up my stamp. That's probably good enough. I tend to overdo it because I worry about it. Okay, so then I'm ready to try to line this up. And since it is a clear stamp, I can do an okay job. That if I was going to do a whole bunch, or if I was going to, if I hadn't already stamped one so that I'm sure I have one good one to use, you would probably want to use your Stamparatus and you do the deal of cutting this out and going ahead and putting the little cut pieces in there because it makes it really nice to be able to, see, I got that a little bit low. You can see I have kind of an edge up here that I probably wouldn't want. So I'm just going to use the one that I did a little earlier. And so I think I'll start with the leaves and just kind of add some color on the leaves, just kind of everywhere. I went down that with the light Old Olive. And the reason I have this tape on here is because I realized this is actually one of the older blends that I have, and so I just have it marked because I have two of them. And this one is starting to get kind of worn out, so it's kind of a note to self thing. Okay, so I'm gonna go down the center of this and just kind of feather out from the center a little bit for one thing, and then I'm gonna do kind of an edge down here where I think there would be some shadowing. So in this one I'm just feathering down from the center, and the same with this one. So this is something, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, I just think playing with it makes it the most fun. If you follow too exactly, it sort of takes some of the, I like to be surprised at what I get, if that makes sense. So that's what I'm trying to say. Do it the same way every time, it'll look the same way every time. Big variety. Okay, so now that we've done that, I'm just going to go in here and add some spacing of, I'm using, for this part I'll be using light and dark Seaside Spray plus light balmy blue and light misty moonlight. So what I'm going to do on this is just go in with my dark Seaside Spray and add some color here and there just to kind of, so there'll be variation. There we go, that makes sense. And then I'm going to go use the light balmy blue and do the same thing, where on this one I'm not necessarily paying attention to where I'm putting it. I'm just kind of blotching it on. That. Now, I could color each one of these separately, but I kind of think it will go a little faster and maybe be a little less boring if I just kind of splotch color on like this. Okay, then I'm going to add some light misty moonlight, and you can see here that's the darkest color that I'll be using. What I'm doing with this is just going in and making some little shadows, so I'm going to use this sparingly, and then that they're not necessarily in the shape of a petal, they're more of like down inside where the light isn't quite reaching, you know, just like it's still going to look blue because it's a blue flower, but I'm just adding a little bit of color down inside the hydrangea. Okay, so now I'm going to go over the whole thing with my light Seaside Spray. I'm going to try to stay somewhat inside the lines. And so I'm just kind of going in and adding this, and I'll probably go back and add some more color as well. But just another way of putting this in. There we go. And I've got this laid. You can see that the tip end of this, we would want to be really careful to not blunt the tip end. I'm wanting to be careful to not get too much on the tip. So I'm coloring kind of from the side. I usually tell my customers to color with this end because when you're trying to hurry, you can tip it up and you're not going to get anything. You're not going to damage the tip at all. So that's the one when you're wanting to color fast like this. It's probably better to use that, but I typically use the other one. Spreads better because it has a nice spread. Okay, so now I've got another card base here, and I hadn't really decided what I was going to do. So I just kind of cut a few pieces of this pretty paper just to kind of let it be kind of in the background. So you can see here how nice that looks on the paper and how the black really accentuates the petals that we've used. So that's another way that we can color. And then I also wanted to show you a technique that Stampin' Up! Has put in the new catalog in the several different places actually, but when you have a piece of paper, a piece of designer series paper, this is also from the Hydrangea Hill, and this is the back side that I used on my swap that I showed you earlier. And if you missed that, just go back and see it, where it cuts out and has the little liftable petals. When you have an edge like this and you want to cut out some of these, a lot of times you think that these edge pieces are trash. But if you cut out these edge pieces, they make a great edging for a sentiment that you've cut out in some pretty shape. So you can just tuck those down in there, so you can imagine if you had cut that one out, that would also have looked really nice. So then that way, if you're using mostly pieces of paper in here that you're cutting out or you're creating into a shape, maybe you're punching it with a circle, you can still use these pieces. They're not trash. They're great to put on the edge of a sentiment like this. You could use an oval or any variety of things for that. So this card, having the happy birthday, I just put some bling on the sides. I wrapped some ribbon around, and then on the inside, I just used, this is actually the back side of this page. I just used this to just kind of, what would normally be a scrap, it just adds a little bit. Unless you're planning to write a really long story, this just adds a little scrap of paper here that adds, kind of carries the theme through from the front to the back. So if that makes sense. So that is that card. So now we are finished for tonight. I don't know how many times I may have to use the Hydrangea Hill because it's one of my favorites in the new catalog and it's so pretty that I think I'll probably have to use it more than once. We'll see. I'll try to use the others all first before I do. I'm going to show you now a card with the Flower and Field set. It is on page 10 and 11 of your Sale-A-Bration brochure. And this actually shows cutting out the paper, and like I just showed you with the other card, using the edge. And it also shows cutting out the paper to use the paper as the main image on the card. So the ones I chose for this, has a Just Jade. This is one of the in colors. And it has this side on the background, and this is kind of a bold paper. I mean, it would look gorgeous on black, but I love this little polka dot. And so what I did, I've just got the inside of the card already basically ready, and you could certainly use a smaller strip. If you think this is too huge, you could certainly cut that down. But I just imagine putting this piece on the inside for kind of the same thing I'd done before, and it wouldn't have to go this direction either. You could have done it this way, it had a longer piece, but oftentimes what I have left is a 4-inch piece of cardstock. So that makes 4-inch wide. So that makes it kind of a cute little inside piece. And then on here, I think it would be really cute to add some Just Jade ribbon, which also comes, it's in the big catalog and matches. And then I was thinking about adding, you could use maybe the happy birthday. This happy birthday is kind of a long happy birthday, and it goes in, it is part of the, let me show you, sweet ice cream stamp set. So it has this nice big happy birthday. And so I like the way it fit in this particular piece of, in this particular die cut, I'm sorry. And it comes with, I think it was in the textures die cuts, so it's also in the big catalog. So I was just thinking that would be really cute to add on here. So let me try to just go ahead and stamp that for you. You can see with the clear stamps, it's pretty easy to, they're photopolymer, they're not just acrylic, so they do stamp very nicely and give you a good image most of the time. And if you ever have trouble with it, you can always use the little Stamparatus to get that working more easily for you. So let me try to get this straight. We'll just see. There we go. All right, so you can see it starts out a little dark and lightens up as it goes. But that is that. And then I'm just going to imagine here where I might cut this and how I might place this around the happy birthday. So the first thing I think I'm going to do is stick this down with my Stampin' Seal. So there I have that. I'm just going to put it on the top. Try to get it as even as I can. It's always interesting. Okay. And then I'm going to add the happy birthday. I'm going to put, well, maybe not that one. Maybe this one now, because I think I stuck that in some green. Okay, I want to use my dimensionals to give it a little bit of height. There we go. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead. I'm turning this around because for some reason I have not gotten good yet at doing things like that upside down. I don't want to ruin it for you. Okay, and I am tilting this up just a little bit from the center. But I don't want to go too far because I want to have room if I want to add flowers at the top as well. Okay, so there I did that. Might as well just set this aside till I'm finished. Okay, so then I'm imagining here how I might tuck little pieces of this under the paper like this. I think I want to have this piece right here kind of come at the bottom. You just have to kind of visualize how you would do that. And then I think I probably want this piece on there because I love this red. And I don't think I can get both this red and these pink flowers. So I'll just go ahead and get started cutting on that. Okay, so then you can see if I tuck that under there, how pretty that is. And then I'm going to go ahead and get a couple more pieces that I think would be pretty and add them to the top. I might want to repeat the pink, but I might not. So just kind of up to you what you think would be pretty. I think I'm going to add this nice orange down here because I think that is a nice contrast with the green. And I like to cut things out. I know some people aren't huge fans of it, but I think it adds quite a bit when you kind of cut things out, even if you don't do that great of a job, especially on this black. When you have a black on black like that, it's so forgiving. So just something to remember that, you know, I mean, yes, I can do better when I'm not doing it live, you know, on Facebook, but also it's very forgiving when you have black on black like this. I think I'm going to add just a little bit more. Just add this daisy right here. Kind of tuck it under there also. I think that would look pretty kind of right under there. So now you can see that this would be really easy to add to your card, and it just gives it a lot of color and a lot of shine while still making the happy birthday the main emphasis of the card. So now I'm going to just add a little knot of the ribbon color. You could certainly do a million different things with the ribbon, but I'm just going to do a knot this time, just kind of for variety, really, because I don't want to do the same things all the time. So I would just put that right there. And then the next thing I would do is probably add some bling. I might go ahead and make them into a jade, but that might be too much jade at this point. Now I'm just adding a few pieces, a few dollops, I guess you could say, of some bling on here, just to kind of, these are the clear rhinestones. I'm using kind of a variety of sizes, kind of some of the small ones, and then I'm using a couple of the mediums here and there. And let's see here, I need a couple more right there. Maybe one over here. Okay, so there you can see that is how my Flower and Field Designer Series paper turned out. And this is one of the Sale-A-Bration choices for January and February. It is a shortened season this time, so we only have January and February on this round of Sale-A-Bration, and we're going to have another in July and August. So that's another thing to consider as you're planning your purchases from this spring catalog, is we only have 2 months to earn the Sale-A-Bration sets. So if you find something that you like, go ahead and DM me, and I will try to help you with that. Or if you need a catalog, let me know. Yeah, because they're not very expensive to mail out, since they're just the January through June and the Sale-A-Bration. So everyone, just let me know if you're interested in that. And I hope you'll go back and look at all of the cards that we made tonight, and maybe pick out some of your favorites, and try to go ahead and maybe case them for something that you want to make for a friend later. So I'll just go back over. This is some of the cards where we use the technique where we use the edge of the Designer Series paper. So that's that one. I showed how we used, not a complete card on this one, but how we used the Stampin' blends, and how we used Memento ink when we stamped this hydrangea. And then I showed a couple of different ways that we used the paper to highlight, just doing it with just some splotching. And then this one I completely colored with water painters, and so that kind of made a different look. And then this, which is my swap card, that had the kind of die cut where it cuts the little petals for you out. And this was just out of the Designer Series paper, but you could certainly do the same thing with one of these, or even with regular Seaside spray, and then just go over it with a sponge for another look. And then this is the die cut of the leaf detail that they put on. And then the inside, I just lined that with more of the purple posy paper. So you can see how pretty this suite is. So I hope that you enjoy it as much as I do. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.